Hello, everyone. Welcome to Barca News. It is May 6, 2024, and Vitor Roque's agent has absolutely blasted Xavi Hernandez and Barcelona in an interview that he just did. Also, Joan Laporta has met with Pere Guardiola at Girona. And finally, Sergi Roberto's agent has demanded more out of the club for his players or his representative contract renewal. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Barca News. My name is Mo, and this is the live podcast, the Barca News live podcast, which is on every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where not only do I get to share the news with you, but I also get to interact with you lovely people in the chat section by reading your comments out loud, answering any questions, and getting a discussion going. For those of you who will be watching the podcast once it ends, I will be putting timestamps in the description and chapters in the timeline in case you do want to skip through the discussion. I haven't said all of that. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment. All of this helps the channel continue to grow. And if you want to continue supporting the channel, you can also do so by heading to Kickback to buy your Barcelona merchandise or going to Bet Us for any sporting bets that you want to make by using the links in the description. I get a small commission if you do. You get a special offers and discounts. So if you want to support the channel, please do. I would greatly appreciate it. Anyways, no more long intros. Let's start with the news because there is some interesting news today. By the way, podcast day is my favorite day because I do get to interact with you amazing people in the chat section. I know I didn't do anything while I was away on vacation, so I'm very excited for today's podcast. But let's start with the news because Vitor Roque's agent, Andre Curie, has blasted Xavi and Barcelona in the most recent interview that he did. Now, we know by now all the drama that's going on with Vitor Roque, where Xavi's not really counting on him. They want to send him out on loan this summer. The player does not understand what's going on. He's depressed. He's sad. And as I revealed in yesterday's video, it seems that Xavi's not only is not counting on Vitor Roque, he's actually not even addressing him. He's not talking to him. So the player is very confused. He's very depressed. He's very frustrated with his situation because not only is Xavi not counting on him, but he doesn't even know where he stands with the coach because Xavi won't even talk to him. He pretends he's not there. And as such, the player doesn't even know what he needs to do. You know, what do I have to do to impress Xavi? How do I improve? What do I need to work on? He doesn't know anything because Xavi won't even talk to him. And well, Vitor Roque's agent, Andre Curie, has given an interview where he absolutely blasted Xavi and the club. And this is what Andre Curie had to say. And I will remove my logo so you can see better. But he said, "We do not want a loan. If the club decides that he cannot stay, he will be sold. There are many teams interested in Vitor Roque. If the club does not give space to Vitor, we will have to look for a solution. Either he stays or he is transferred. No one understands why Xavi doesn't play him and doesn't even speak to Vitor. It's not right. We will discuss his future with Barca soon. We chose Barca because Vitor loves the club. Imagine that we really had other proposals that gave us twice as much. But if we can't find a solution internally, we'll have to look for another place on permanent transfer. Everyone thinks that Vitor Roque has to have more minutes, and no one understands why the coach doesn't give them to him." All right, so that's pretty much the gist of the statements that are the most important statements that Andre Curie had to say about the whole situation with Vitor Roque during his interview. And I do want to break it down into maybe two parts. The first one is that he confirms the news that I told you before, that Vitor Roque does not want a loan. He wants to stay in Barcelona. He wants to fight for his spot. He wants to earn his spot. However, if the club insists on loaning Vitor Roque, he prefers to be sold. He wants to stay, but if the club insists on loan, he wants to be sold. And I completely understand the player's position because Barcelona spent 30 million euros fixed on a player. They still owe 30 million euros in variables. They brought him before he was supposed to come. He was supposed to be the star or the future star of the club. He was supposed to be someone who would compete with Lewandowski and eventually take the place of Lewandowski. And instead, he's not getting any minutes. And now there's talks about sending him out on loan, which is a pretty mishandling of the whole situation. Because if you thought that the player is not good enough, if you thought the player that would need to be loaned out, then why did you spend that much money? Why did it bring him before he was supposed to come? You could have just left him in Brazil, finished the season off, and then brought him in the summer. It absolutely does not make sense how everything is being handled with Vitor Roque, especially because he was signed as a star. This is not like perhaps, I don't know, Mika Fai's situation or Pablo Torres' situation or Noah Darvish's situation where you're signing a player for Barca Athletic who has promise and you're like, all right, let's see how it pans out. If it works out, great, we promote him to the first team. If not, we sell him. No, this is a player you signed for the first team as the future star. It does not make sense now to be sending him out on loan, to not give him any minutes because you already spent all this money on him and you already signed him as the future star. So absolutely I agree there with Vitor Roque's position that if he's not going to be counted on, he's going to be sent on loan, it's better that he's transferred because as Andre Curie made it clear, there are plenty of clubs out there who are interested in him, clubs who offered to pay double the salary what Barcelona are paying Vitor Roque, and clubs who are willing to pay Atlético Paranaense cash up front. Instead, Barcelona are now paying like a payment plan with Atlético Paranaense. So I do agree with that position. The second part of the statements that Andre Curie said was regarding how Xavi does not talk to Vitor Roque. And that, I think it's a problem. Because look, if Xavi doesn't want to start Vitor Roque, that's totally within his purview. He has absolute right to do so. He might see something that we don't see during trainings. Maybe Xavi doesn't think Vitor Roque is good enough. Maybe Xavi doesn't think that Vitor Roque fits his style or his scheme. Maybe Xavi believes that Lewandowski or Margiu or Ferran do a better job within his scheme or his style of play or his system of play, whatever it is, because I don't know what it is. Maybe Xavi thinks that, and that's totally his right. After all, he is the coach. He's the one who decides who gets to play and who doesn't. That's fine. The problem is that he's not talking to Vitor Roque. And that's a big problem because if Xavi believes that Vitor Roque does not have what it takes to fit his scheme, then you need to talk to the player. You need to say, hey, this is what you're doing wrong. This is what you need to be doing instead. This is what you need to be working on. This is what you need to be improving on. And maybe if you can achieve those things, maybe I can consider you. That's the right way to approach things. Because the problem here is not that Xavi is not using Vitor Roque. That's totally within his purview. Let's not forget, Xavi does not shy away from starting youngsters. It's not like Xavi has a problem with youngsters, and that's why he's not starting Vitor Roque. Vitor Roque is shining in trainings, but he won't start him because he's young. That's not a problem with Xavi. We've seen that Xavi has bet on Lamine Yamal, a 16-year-old. We've seen that Xavi has bet on Pau Cubarsí, a 17-year-old. So that's definitely not a problem. So if Xavi's not starting Vitor Roque, it's because he definitely sees something that we're not seeing, and he thinks that he's not good enough or he's not fitting his style. But that's what communication is for. Talk to the player. Let him know. Why is he not starting? But leaving him in the dark doesn't help anyone. Because if the player is not doing something right, and that's why you're not starting him, talk to him, and maybe he'll be able to do that thing that you're looking for, and bam, you get yourself another player that you can count on. Everyone benefits from this. But that's the big problem with Xavi, and that's what I kind of wanted to talk about, was the second part of the speech, which is the whole communication. Now, overall, I got to say, I don't like what Andre Curie did. I understand that he's frustrated. I understand that Vitor Roque is frustrated. But this is not the way to handle things. I think a better way would have been call the club, arrange a meeting, sit down with the club and say, hey, what is going on? Let's find a way out of this. We either, find a way to improve Vitor Roque's performance, or if you don't count on us, that's fine. We'll look somewhere else to leave. But to get on TV, blast Xavi, blast the club, I don't think that's the right thing to do. you're only making things worse for your player. Because the last thing you want to do is piss off Xavi more, is piss off the club more, and now you're in a pissing competition of he said, she said, oh, well, if you said that, then F you. Oh, you said that, F you, so I'll say this back. You don't want to play that game because at the end of the day, the ones who are going to end up losing is Roque and his agent. So I don't think the agent handled this well. I completely understand his frustration. I agree 100% that the club are not handling this the best way. I agree that Xavi's not doing the right job by not communicating with the player, but to go on a press, blast the club and blast Xavi, that's not the way to handle things. But anyways, I am curious what you guys have to say. So let me know in the chat section if you're watching this live, or in the comment section if you're watching this once it ends. But let's start with the chat section, which is my favorite part. And we do have a donation from Baby Scumbag, who is absolutely amazing. Every live stream he's there. Every live stream he gives a donation. Thank you so much. A million times thank you for supporting this channel. Baby Scumbag says, I don't think I've seen Barcelona fans more divided than ever. Not even when Bartomeu was president, not even with Koeman. Everyone wanted Barto out, even the players. Most fans wanted Koeman out. I think I agree with you to a certain point. I think now people are starting to realize that Xavi was a mistake. And I think there's more people now who support having Xavi leave versus having Xavi stay. So I do agree with you that before, not now, before it was pretty divided. People were either Xavi in or Xavi out, and then it was just like a clash of the two parts, and you know, it was getting pretty bad. I mean, I saw it on the channel here, right? People were either like, yeah, Mo, you're right, Xavi should be out, or people were like, Mo, you're an idiot, you're a hater, you're toxic, you don't know anything, you don't know football, you've never played football in your life. By the way, I have played football many years. And second of all, even if I haven't, just because you didn't play football doesn't mean you cannot have an opinion on it. You know, I go to restaurants and I eat, and I can say, okay, this plate is not good or this plate is good, and I've never been a chef, right? So that argument is pretty dumb one. But anyways, I do agree with you about that. I think it's just people, you know, the division comes from the people's attachment to Xavi, the player, right? Because I don't see a difference between Xavi and Koeman as coaches, to be honest. I see exactly the same tactics, which are non-existent. Just send endless crosses to the box. If we're losing, just bring in every attacker you have off the bench, like what we did against Girona. Bring in Ferran, bring in Rafinha, bring in Joao Felix, bring in the ball boy, bring in the valet guy who parks the cars, bring everybody in. And just, you know, Hail Mary, let's see what happens. That's exactly what Koeman needs to do. It's exactly what Xavi does. I don't see a difference. And they're both Barca legends. I think the difference is Koeman was a Barca legend during the 90s. So 99% of the people on this channel never saw him play, including me. You know, when Koeman was at Barca, I was like 4 or 5 years old. But Xavi, most of us lived through the Xavi years as a player. So I think that's why people are more inclined to give Xavi a leeway versus Koeman, who was like, everybody was like, Koeman out. Even though Xavi's exactly the same, they won't do that because they're attached to him. Anyways, let's get back to the comment section. Let's see. Sherkute says the big problem that Barca does is keep it Xavi, and Mo Xavi did not have Roque because he is not Spanish. Okay. I think I've addressed this a million times. I'm all for criticizing Xavi. You know, I'm not a fan of him. I think it was a mistake to bring him, and it was a mistake to keep him. But let's stop with the foolishness that Xavi picks players based on their nationality. There's absolutely no proof of that. Actually, the proof is the opposite way, because 8 out of the 11 players or starters are not Spanish. So to say that Xavi somehow prefers Spanish players, not only it's wrong, it has no basis in any kind of fact. So please stop with the foolishness. Ter Stegen is not Spanish. Araujo is not Spanish. Cancelo's not Spanish. Kunde's not Spanish. Christensen's not Spanish. Frankie's not Spanish. Gundogan's not Spanish. Lewandowski's not Spanish. Rafinha's not Spanish. Oh, Felix is not Spanish. I can go on and on and on. Let's stop talking about Xavi prefers Spanish players because there's absolutely no truth to that. Yesterday someone said Xavi is racist towards Brazilians. It's like, all right, which one is it? He prefers Spanish players or he's racist towards Brazilians? Because he does like Rafinha, even though Rafinha is not Barca level, and Rafinha is also Brillian. So people are like, oh, Xavi prefers Spanish players. But then at the same time, oh, I'm so sick of Xavi always relying on Lewandowski. It's like, wait a minute, but Lewandowski's Polish. So which one is it? Does he prefer? Like, let's stop with this. I'm all for criticizing Xavi, but let's criticize him based on facts and actual things that are happening, not on silly things like he prefers Spanish players. Of course, there's Spanish players in Barcelona. It's a Spanish team played in a Spanish league in the country of Spain. What do you expect? Pep Guardiola has plenty of English players on his squad. No one is saying, oh my God, Pep Guardiola prefers English players. That would be a pretty dumb thing to say. But anyways, Xavi says, Mo, I think you now have to admit Xavi's favorite his. Oh God, here we go. No, he's not. All right, let's continue. Melvin says, Mo, watching from Cameroon, I'm sad with what Barca is doing. How on earth is Xavi still doing in Barca? I ask myself that a lot. I think what it is Laporta looked at it from the economic point of view. 2024, this summer is when Barcelona will hopefully reach the 1-1 rule. November of 2024 is when our stadium will reopen. So that's a huge increase in revenue, not just from the stadium itself, but sponsors. Sponsors are set to pay more money once the stadium is open, including Spotify. So I think he looked at it as like, all right, let's stick with Xavi for this season, as in the upcoming season. And then summer 2025, the club will have a lot more money. The club will have a lot more financial fair play leeway. And then maybe we can bring someone better. Plus, by then, there's going to be more available coaches like Luis Enrique, coaches like Jurgen Klopp. So I think that's why Laporta did it. I could be wrong, but that's my sense. But anyways. All right, let's get back to the news because speaking of Joan Laporta, the Barcelona president has met with Pere Guardiola. If you don't know who it is, it's Pep Guardiola's brother, who is the chairman of Girona. So pretty much this was a meeting between Barcelona and Girona, and it was in order to discuss several names, including Oriol Romeo, Eric Garcia, Pablo Torre, and of course, Aleix Garcia. Now, when it comes with Oriol Romeo and Eric Garcia, the Girona coach Mitchell actually said this after the match, after defeating Barcelona and after reclaiming second place on La Liga and making it to the Champions League, a historical achievement, by the way, for the Girona club, a club with 60 million euro a year budget. But people want to tell me that the problem with Xavi's team is that there's no money. But yet our budget is 900 million, and this guy with 60 million has made it to the Champions League for the first time in the history of his club and has beat us twice, scoring 8 goals against us. But apparently the excuse is the money. But anyways, this is what Mitchell had to say. Let's see. Where's my logo? There it is. I am very clear. I would like Eric and Oriol Romeo to return to Girona. They will be top signings, and I would like them to come back. So Mitchell making it very clear that he would like both Oriol Romeo and Eric Garcia. Of course, Oriol Romeo to go back to Girona and Eric Garcia to be signed on a permanent basis since Eric Garcia is there on loan. Now, when it comes to Oriol Romeo, that's going to most likely happen 100%. Xavi does not count on Oriol Romeo, and Barcelona are looking to offload him this summer. Oriol Romeo wants to go back to Girona, and now, as Mitchell has made it very clear, he wants Oriol back in Girona. So this transfer was most likely going to happen unless some crazy event happened in the last moment. Barcelona will most likely end up offloading him for the same amount of money that they bought him for. They bought him around 3 million euros. That's probably how much they're going to ask of Girona. So pretty much it's like this transaction never happened. We're going to recover the money that was spent. And I'm actually happy for Oriol Romeo. Oriol Romeo under Mitchell was an absolute beast in the pivot position. Unfortunately, Xavi did not know how to use him. the same way Xavi did not know how to use Eric Garcia, and now we see what he's capable of under Mitchell. So I'm glad to see Uriel Romeo go back to Girona. I think he'll be a lot more useful there. He'll be able to, return to his performance that he was doing before arriving in Barcelona, and Barcelona can get rid of a player that they simply do not count on. As far as Eric Garcia, as Mitchell said, he really wants to sign him on a permanent basis. Of course, Eric Garcia's loan has no option or obligation to buy, so the player will come back to Barcelona at the end of the season. And this is where it gets a little tricky, because Eric Garcia would like a shot or would like a chance during the preseason to earn his spot on the first team. Xavi is insisting that Barcelona keep Eric Garcia on the squad. However, the club want to offload Eric Garcia. The club think that we should bet on the center backs that we have, Kunde, Christensen, Araujo, Cubarsi, Inigo if he stays, and Mika Fai, who will be promoted to the first team next season. But Xavi will insist until the final day to keep Eric Garcia. But again, the club do think it's better to offload him. Now, I always defended Eric Garcia. I think he's a center back with lots of potential. I think his potential was not used at Barcelona because he was played very infrequently. He never got consistent minutes, so we never were able to see what he was capable of. We're seeing what he's capable of now at Girona. He has single-handedly stopped our attack in both matches that we faced him. So I really think he's a center back with lots of potential, but I do think that his time has passed, because now with all the center backs that we have, Christensen, Araujo, Cubarsi, Kunde, etc., Mika Fai, I think it's time to offload him, it's a shame, because I think we should have kept him last season, but it is what it is. So we'll see what happens, whether the club decide to offload Eric Garcia against Xavi's wishes or not. That's most likely what's going to happen. As far as Pablo Torre, Barcelona would prefer another loan to see if Pablo Torre can, live up to the expectations that the club have of him. However, Barcelona are not closed off to the idea of completely offloading him, because they do need the money. And given that we have so many midfielders, they're not ruling out transferring him on a permanent basis. Again, they would prefer another loan, but if Girona make a good enough offer, they are willing to offload him permanently. And finally, Aleix Garcia, who Barcelona were keen on signing in the summer because Xavi requested him, but now Barcelona are having second thoughts. They want to reinforce the midfield. They have, limited resources to do so. So they want to use the limited resources to sign someone who would elevate the level of the squad. And they don't think Aleix Garcia would do that. So that's most likely not going to happen, but it could happen if Barcelona are left with no other options. They can't sign anyone else, then they would consider Aleix. But for now, it's not looking like it's going to happen. Anyways, that is the news in regards to the meeting. Those are the players that were discussed between Laporta and Pere Guardiola. Of course, there's going to be more meetings as the summer transfer market gets closer and once it opens, as again, both clubs are looking to finalize those deals. All right. McBarca says Xavi Hernandez and Deco should come to terms because Deco is signing good players not recommended by Xavi, which leads to Xavi ghosting those signings. I agree with you. I think, and this is something I've stressed a lot in the past, I think clubs should always make their own signings because we shouldn't allow coaches to make all the signings because once coaches leave, you're stuck with those signings. You know what happened if Barcelona would have signed Subimendi and then Xavi would have left at the end of the season? He would have been stuck with a 60 million euro signing. And what if Flick would have caved and he would have said, I don't want Subimendi, right? This is why it's important for clubs to make their own signings. And of course, you should still bring some signings that the coach wants. But overall, the club should make most of the signings. And I think that's what Deco is trying to do. But Laporta has consistently listened to Xavi. Hopefully, he's learned his lesson because we cannot keep spending 60 million euros on subs. We spent 55 on Ferran, who's a sub. We spent 60 million euros on Rafinha, who first was subbed by Dembele. Then Dembele left, and we thought he was going to be the starter. So he was subbed by a 16-year-old Lamine Yamal, who has completely become the starter on the right wing. So then we moved Rafinha to the left. And now, apparently, he's now the sub of Fermin Lopez. So we cannot keep spending 60 million euros on subs. We spend 30 plus 30 on Vitor Roque, and now he turns out he's a sub too. So I think the club needs to stop listening to Xavi and more to Deco. and the two have to come to term. I agree with you. Anthony says we shouldn't have to pick between Frankie and Bernardo. Sell an attacker who's not a world class like Rafinha or Ferran and gain money with that money. Buy Bernardo. The problem is that neither Rafinha nor Ferran want to leave. So it's like, also, if you do sell, let's say, I think both Ferran and Rafinha should be sold. But you get rid of two attackers and you bring in a midfielder. So now who are your attackers? Lamine and Lewy. Joao Felix goes back. You just have two attackers. You need 6. 3 starters and 3 subs. So that's why it doesn't make sense to sell an attacker to bring in a midfielder. I do agree that we should sell both Ferran and Rafinha. I don't think either of them have the level to be Barcelona players, but Giuseppe says, hey Mo, just wanted to say that it's refreshing to hear someone share my opinions. A lot of people are buying into this propaganda nonsense against Xavi and Barca. Thank you, my friend. Look, when I started my channel, I did it for one reason only, or 2 reasons, I guess. A, to bring in the news, to be a one-stop shop where you could just come here, watch a 10-minute video, and get all your news instead of having to read one article here and one article there and, listen to this media outlet and listen to that media outlet. I just wanted to collect the news from all the media outlets and bring it to you, 10-minute video, listen to it, good, you're done. And number 2, I wanted to share my opinion with fans. I never started this channel as to please people. A lot of people are like, you either say this or I'm subscribing, or you either say that or I'm stop watching. And it's like, I'm sorry, my friend, but I'm here to give you my opinion. If you like it, great. If not, that's fine too. I'm not gonna change and flip-flop opinions just to please viewers. That's not why I made this channel. It is what it is. Toon says, hey Mo, hailing from the Bahamas, if this whole Roque situation doesn't end well, Barca's gonna have a hard time bringing in another young promising talents to the club. I think it definitely doesn't make the club look good, but I don't know if it would affect in the long term. It would definitely make other players think about it. But after all, Barca's Barca. And Barca has existed for 125 years. And Barca's bigger than any coach, player, or president. And yes, it'll make us look bad in the short term, but in the long term, I think we'll be fine. We have gotten out of much bigger holes than the one we're in. All right. Anyway, sorry, I got distracted. But let's finish the last bit of news, and then we'll do more comments because, like I said, podcast day is my favorite day. All right, let's do the last bit of news because we have to talk about Sergi. And this is, I almost laughed when I read this. And at this point, like I've said in my last few videos, I honestly don't understand anything anymore. But we all know that Xavi has requested the club to renew Sergi Roberto's contract, which expires this summer. Club has agreed to appease Xavi, and now they were in negotiations, and they were set to announce the contract renewal this week, where the club were going to give Sergi Roberto another year, a year extension, same salary, which is incredibly low as a Barca Athletic player. But now, Sergi Roberto's agent has told Barcelona that they want a 2-year extension. And this is where I do have a problem. Because I've said before, I don't mind Sergi staying. I don't care about it. He's someone who can come off the bench the last 20, 30 minutes and help out. I wouldn't start him, ever. I wouldn't have him play 60 minutes. I think he's a good player to come off the last 20, 30 minutes. He's versatile. He's a leader on and off the field. He helps a lot in the locker room. He helps a lot with the youngsters. So there's a lot of benefits to keeping him on the bench. And since his salary is so low, it doesn't matter, right? It's not like keeping Rafinha on the bench where we paid 60 million for him and his salary is 10 or 15 million, however much it is. But now we're talking about 2 years. That's when I have a problem because I don't think Sergi has earned a 2-year contract renewal. I love Sergi. I think he's given us some very, very great years. I will always be thankful for everything he's done for Barca, but his time is up. And a 2-year extension is too much. Maybe a role within the club will be better, since everybody talks about how good he is, as a leader, how good he is mentoring the youngsters, how good he is helping everybody during practice. So maybe a role within the club where he can continue doing that. But a 2-year extension, now we're asking for too much. I don't think the club will see to that, but we'll see. I'm sure Xavi's going to push for it. And like I said, at this point, I don't understand anything. You don't want to start Vitor Roque, 19-year-old promising center forward who all of Europe was after, but you're insisting on a contract renewal of, well, how old is 32, 33-year-old midfielder that you don't even start either. I don't know. I don't understand anything, but let me know you guys' thoughts. And let's see. All right. What Dan says, he can't handle coaching Barca since he made a return to stay. I felt sick right away. He does not know how to sub. I'd rather choose you, Mo, than Xavi. Oh, thank you, my friend. Unfortunately, I'm not a coach, so I cannot help you there. But yeah, I think it was a mistake for Xavi to come this early in his career. I mean, he went from coaching in Qatar to coaching Barca. I don't know of any other coach that has made a jump that big. All coaches, even Ancelotti, I think Ancelotti started in second division, worked his way up. Pep started in Barca Athletic, then Barca. What's his name? Arteta was an assistant coach before he, everybody got their start somewhere. And I think Xavi's the only one who were like, all right, yeah, come from Qatar to Barca. Qatar to Barca. It's like, oh, you know how to drive? Cool. Here are the keys to a Formula One vehicle. That sounds like a great idea, right? I mean, you know how to drive a Toyota Corolla, so it should be the same to drive a Formula One car, right? It doesn't make sense to me. Maybe Xavi will be a great coach down the road. Who knows? I hope so, because I think it will be a great dream for all of us culés to see a great Xavi player and a great Xavi coach. That'd be amazing. But now is not the time. And he came too early. He's inexperienced. He's showing his inexperience. And you cannot have an inexperienced coach running a team as big as Barcelona. The same way you cannot have a random guy off the street driving a Formula One vehicle, because he will crash and, whatever. Jasper says, next season, Barca will qualify for Europa League. That will be Xavi achievement. I can bet my life next season, Barca will not win La Liga and will not go past quarter in the Champions League. Hopefully not. I'm not going to lie. I don't have much hope for next season, but hopefully me and you are wrong. And hopefully Xavi can find a way to turn things around. And hopefully the team does well, because at the end of the day, that's what we all want, or at least that's what I want. I want my team to do good. I don't care about being wrong. I don't care about, I want Xavi to prove me wrong. It's not like, oh, shit, team is doing good. Damn it. Now I'm going to look stupid because I said Xavi sucks. No. Please make me look stupid. Prove me wrong, because I want my team to win. I don't care about being right. I don't care about looking stupid. What I care about is my team winning and doing well. So I really hope I am wrong. And I really hope next season I make a video and I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. I stuck my foot in my mouth and the team is doing amazing. And Xavi's doing amazing. And Rafinha's doing amazing. I really hope that happens, because I don't want to see my team lose just for the sake of being right. That doesn't serve me anything, because at the end of the day, even if I am right, I'm still going to suffer because I'm watching my team embarrass themselves like they have all this past season. But anyways. All right, let's see. Anthony says, Felix gets hate for performing under minimum minutes. It's hilarious. Felix gets hate because he doesn't perform, period. Felix got plenty of opportunities. Let's not pretend that he's been getting, a few minutes here and there. That's not true. Felix started many matches. Felix played entire 90 minutes in many matches. It's not until the last bit of the season, the last quarter of the season, that he's become a sub. But Felix has gotten plenty of opportunities. And time again, he's shown us that he does not have what it takes. Barcelona have played close to, 48, 50 matches. And out of those 50 matches, Felix has showed up twice against Atletico Madrid. The other 48 matches, he was a total ghost. I'm sorry, but that's not Barca level. Barca level is showing up at least 80% of the matches. You cannot show up 100% of the time. That's impossible. Even the best players have bad times. Like even Messi used to have bad matches. So that's impossible to request for a player to do well in 100% of matches. But 70, 80%, that's what a great player, a Barca level player, should be able to give you. And he doesn't. He's given us 2 out of 50 matches. What is that? 4%? I'm sorry, but that's not Barca level. That's not even a mid-table level. A mid-table level player gives you 50% good matches, and the other 50 he ghosts. And Felix cannot even give you that. Emil says, what midfielders? Pedri can't play much, and Gabi will first be back September and October, maybe not back. Gabi should be back by the summer, as far as I know. Bumblebee says, I used to be Blaugrana culé. I'm not watching Barca anymore this season, maybe next, while Xavi Laporta is still there, going full Dortmund, still hunting, and is still a member of Rockamo. I mean, everybody's free to do what they want to do, but I prefer to stick with my team through thick and thin, whether we're winning or we're losing. So, Nicolas says, Mo, good to have you back. Named my son after Xavi, but he has to go. Scared this season. That's awesome. You named your kid after Xavi. I mean, we got to separate Xavi the player from the coach, and we cannot forget everything that Xavi the player did for us just because he is a terrible coach, right? Xavi gave us some amazing years, undoubtedly one of the best midfielders, not in history of Barca, in history of football, period. He gave us 2 trebles. One of them was a sextuple. So I think we definitely have to learn how to separate the player from the coach, and we cannot forget what the Xavi player gave us just because he is, not impressing as a coach. Joshua says, hi, Mo. When you say Sergio agent, says 2 years. Oh, Sergi Roberto's agent says 2 years. I laugh out loud. The truth is 70% of Barcelona players are average players and not world-class players. They can win Champions League or even Liga. I think we do have some players who are capable of winning Champions League. Ter Stegen, Araujo, Kunde, Christensen, Frankie, Pedri, Gabi, Gundo, Lewy, even though he's 35. I think all those players are capable of being Champions League winners. And some of them are already, right? Lewy, for example, is already a Champions League winner. But yeah, there's also a lot of dead weight. There's, Rafinha, there's Ferran, Joao Felix, Sergi, Marcos Alonso, Romeo, or who knows? Romeo did win the Champions League with Chelsea, and he was impressing under Mitchell. So who knows? And he will, if he goes back to Girona, he will play the Champions League next season. But yeah, there is a lot of dead weight. And now Sergio Roberto, of course, has won a Champions League, but he is past, his chapter is over. I think it's time for him to realize that, and it's time for him to step aside. And it's time for Xavi to realize that too. Which is crazy because Xavi realized that with Piqué and Alba. So it's not like he's immune to that. It's not like he's blind to it because they're his friends. Because he did not have a problem benching Alba and Piqué when he saw that they weren't good enough. And he has benched Sergi Roberto too, but I don't know why he insists on the renewal. Yurvaz says, well, Xavi not starting Roque is good because he needs time and a lot of time, at least even 1 or 2 seasons. Even Suarez took a lot of matches to get into Barca style, even when we came from Liverpool. So I do agree that players need time to adapt. And you do need to protect players while they're adapting. My problem is that Xavi's lack of communication with the player. Because how is Vitor going to adapt if the coach is not even talking to him, right? In order for a player to adapt, the coach needs to be, hey, look, this is what you need to do. This is what I need you to learn. This is what I need you to improve. This is what you need to stop doing. It doesn't work. They need feedback. They cannot adapt without feedback. And if Xavi's refusing to even talk to him, That's where the problem is. Now, as far as the 1 to 2 seasons, if you spend 60 million on a player, he should be able to perform right away. Maybe not like in January when we bought Roque, but at least next season, or halfway through next season. 2 seasons, I think that's cutting it a little too long because you're also losing money, right? Because you have to amortize it, right? Let's take example, I don't know, Rafinha. We paid 60 million for 5 seasons. That's 12 million a season. His salary is about, I think, 10 million net, if I'm not mistaken. So that's 22 million a season. If you give him 2 seasons to adapt, you just wasted 44 million. Versus, an academy player who costs you 0, his salary is maybe like 200 grand. You give him 2 seasons, you just wasted 400 grand. 400 grand, 44 million. It's a big difference. So I think we're doing it backwards, where we are giving players who we paid a lot of money all the time in the world to adapt, but our academy players, we're telling them you either adapt right away or you're out. And I think it should be the other way around. It should be the players who we paid a lot of money for say, hey, you either adapt right away or you're out. And our academy players, we should give them more time because, again, it's about money, right? You cannot spend 44 million down the drain giving a player time to adapt. And that just doesn't make sense financially speaking. If you go to a dealership and you buy a brand new Ferrari and you spend all that money, you expect that Ferrari to perform right away. Imagine buying a Ferrari and a dealership is like, all right, look, man, you're not going to be able to take it above 60 kilometers an hour. You're not going to be able to use the stereo. You're not going to be able to use the heated seats for a year. You got to give it time. You're going to be like, what? Why am I spending all this money on a Ferrari then? Here, take it back, right? All right, let's see. One more comment and then we'll end it because I know it's been a minute. Bumblebee says, not about wins and losses. It's about incompetent leadership for me. To each his own. Yeah, I agree. KF says, hi, Mo. Bro, Xavi needs to leave. How he performs from tactics to handling players that is not performing is unacceptable. The last thing is disgusting how he treats Vitor Xavi out and free Palestine. I agree, my friend. All right, maybe one more. I just like reading you guys' comments, so I feel like this podcast could end up being 10 hours. But Joshua says, Mo, do you think Xavi still make a U-turn and say he's leaving after the season if he's not able to win with 2 remaining matches? That's a good question. Now, of course, I cannot answer 100% because I'm not Xavi. I cannot read his mind. But I'll say this, and I think the answer is no. And I think the answer is no because I feel like Xavi now feels untouchable. Because Xavi asked to resign. And then Laporta kept saying, we want to ask him to stay, Then Xavi goes, meets with them, and Laporta says, okay, you can stay. So now Xavi knows that Laporta's not going to fire him because Laporta would look really stupid. Because the guy was leaving. You keep saying you want him to stay. He asks to stay, and then you say, okay, stay, and now you turn around and fire him. You're going to look stupid. Like, why didn't you leave him? Why didn't you let him leave to begin with? Why did you keep begging him to stay and then allow him to stay just to end up firing him? So if Laporta fires Xavi, it's going to look stupid on Laporta's part. And if Laporta fires Xavi, now Barcelona owes Xavi his last year of contract, right? If Xavi quit, he cannot ask for that money because you quit. But if he gets fired, now Laporta owes him the last year of his contract. So I think Xavi knows that. And because of that, I think Xavi now feels like maybe they're not going to fire me, so maybe I can, do what I want. And if they want to fire me, go ahead. Because now you're the one who looks bad, right? When Xavi decided to quit and had he left, he would have looked bad because he would have looked like, he gave up. He abandoned the ship. But if he gets fired, now he gets to walk away with his legacy intact. Like, they didn't let me finish my project. They fired me, right? I was a Barca legend and gave the club everything and they fired me. So Laporta made a huge mistake allowing Xavi to stay. Not just from the sporting project, but for all the reasons I just mentioned. Anyways, That is it, guys. Oh my God, 45 minutes. I told you guys, podcast day is my favorite day. And since I hadn't done a podcast in over a week since I was away, this is why it took so long. But anyways, it was absolutely lovely to do another podcast and read you guys' comments and interact with you lovely people. Thank you for always supporting the channel. Thank you for tuning in, for your likes, subscriptions, comments, donations. Baby scumbag, I'm looking at you. Thank you guys a million times. Thank you. You guys are absolutely wonderful. I will upload one more video tonight. There's more news. Imagine had I fit that news in this podcast, it would have been 10 hours. But anyways, there's more news. So I'll upload another video. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next video. And as always, peace, guys.